Hi, Zizaran here with another news roundup part 2. So this is a series where we just go over new Path of Exile items and stuff like that, and updates for Delirium League. So we're gonna start with some of the new skills that are being added in Delirium. So we can look at the video here, and they're showing off Arcane Cloak. And Arcane Cloak is the spell, or rather mana answer to Val Molten Shell. And what it does is it uses a large chunk of your mana, of your unreserved mana. So very good if you're, not reserving all of it. And it gives you a buff that absorbs 75% of the damage taken from hits. So similar to Mind Over Matter and stuff. And it also gives you a damage boost, and this is like definitely the thing that sets it apart from Vault London Shows. You can see the user here uses a large chunk of its mana and then getting that shield. Next up, they're showing a new support gem, which is Archmage Support. And from what we can tell, it seems to be very, very similar to Indigon and stuff like that, where it's using a massive chunk of your mana, and yeah, it's giving you a big damage boost. It's going to be interesting to see combinations of that. It's really, really cool that there are more things happening with mana. It's going to be a big buff to Hierophant, so looking forward to see that. And this opens up a lot more possibilities with, for example, Clear Mind, whereas usually, unreserved mana isn't really that good right now in the game. But this changes all of that, so going to be very interesting to see what they do there. So next up, we have Stormbind and Rune Blast, which seems to be the spell version of Charged Dash. It's, teleporting you forward and putting loads of runes on the ground. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm sort of two minds about it with, a skill like this teleporting. It could end up being insane as a movement skill. And, for boss fights, might accidentally move you into the middle of a big slam, or I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if the stays like this, but, I mean, it looks better than when I first saw, the screenshot and, the idea. Because it actually looks pretty fast, so maybe it's good as a clearing ability and something you never use for bosses. It is a very, very cool ability, and obviously something we see used with Baron uses this basically. So you get to become a boss, and that's pretty cool. Not that optimistic at this point of this skill. The Arcane Cloak looks really cool, opens up so many possibilities for Hierophant, and the Archmage one as well. Really, really cool skills that I think will help change the game and make things very, very interesting. So next up, we have some more new skills. We have Kinetic Bolt and Spellslinger and some wand changes, and we're going to talk about that next. Kinetic Bolt looks pretty cool. Definitely a big fan of more wand attacks. I used to love playing Kinetic Blast and Val Power Siphon and stuff back in the day. And yeah, it looks like something that you're definitely going to do scale with Barrage in game, and as many more multiple projectiles as you can, especially from things like Dying Sun and GMP and additional projectiles wherever you can. And yeah, it looks really cool. It looks like it could have pretty cool clear on its own. And more importantly, there's now something called Spellslinger Support, which is sort of Poet's Pen, the support gem. And it looks insane with so many things. Because the crazy part about this, and I initially thought that the way this skill worked was similar to, Spell Totem, or Cast While Channeling, or Cast on Crit. I thought that you would, my initial thought about this, and a lot of people thought this too, because I was talking about it on stream, and people were like, wait, it doesn't work like that? I thought that you would have to have Kinetic Bolt, Spellslinger, and then the spells you want, right? And then you would have to figure out a way of scaling both, so I was like, that doesn't sound that great, but it doesn't work like that. It's in a separate gem. So once I realized that, I was like, this sounds insane. So you would have, for example, a 4 or 6 thing on your Kinetic Bolt, and then you could have a 4 or 6 thing, or you could use pseudo 5 or 6 things like helmets and gloves with essences. for Spellslinger. So they're completely independent of each other. And that is insane. That is so cool for like so many opportunities opens up for what you can do. And we can see here you have like Spellslinger and Wave of Conviction, and you're like, you know, flame dashing around. And here we have Spellslinger support with Lightning Warp. And it seems to be like you've actually, the person's actually scaled Lightning Warp a lot with it, probably like less duration, and I'm not sure what else. Because you can't do faster casting. Obviously cast speed shouldn't affect anything here. But it looks very, very fast. And here, probably good ones, and the kinetic is actually scaling. I do wonder how much coverage we're gonna see with Kinetic Bolt, because it like Kinetic Blast seems to cover, like, you know, the entire screen, whereas this it is leaving things. So I don't know how good it's actually gonna end up being, but we'll see that soon. And there's a big post here about it as well. And yeah, Kinetic Bolt is a new level 1 skill, fires a short distance before forking, split into a primary projectile and a limited range secondary projectile. And the special thing about Kinetic Bolt is that increases and reductions to spell damage also apply to Kinetic Bolt's damage at 150% of their value. So if you get 100% increased spell damage, that's sort of similar to getting 150% increased weapon attack damage. With an attack skill. So it's very, very strong, sort of like a built-in stronger version of Crown of Ice. And very, very excited about this. I hope it'll be good because it looks really fun. I do think there's going to be a ton more opportunities with using things like Power Siphon or Frenzy for leveling and stuff, just to, like, you know, get your Frenzy charges or Power charges while leveling, depending on what you need. And just scaling Spellslinger. Spellslinger is like the thing I'm the most excited about. I'm hoping to league start with Spellslinger and maybe Kinetic Bolt, depending on how strong it is, but we'll see. And yeah, it just sounds so fun. And like it says here, you can have multiple skills reserved with Spellslinger, letting you perform combos like Frostbolt and Ice Nova, Desecrate and Volatile Dead, and this sounds super strong. And I really wonder how it's going to be and how strong. I'm very hopeful because it's firing all of them at the same time, it sounds like, and looks like from watching the videos. Just looks incredibly strong, incredibly cheap as well. The thing that's extra insane about it, if you're using something like Spell Totem or Cast while channeling on a gem, you're losing damage, right? Like you're sort of paying one gem slot for the opportunity cost to use these skills in a different way. With this skill, the activator gem, Spellslinger, is a damage gem as well, because as it says here, Spellslinger also provides a unique effect to supported spells. Your wand's base damage is added to the damage of the spell. Base damage includes all local and increased damage modifiers, making attack wands powerful when you're focused on Spellslinger. And there's a couple of reasons why this is insane. So first of all, on a normal wand, or rather any wand, when you're scaling a spell right now, you can't use 3 flat damage to spells on the same wand. You can't have flat added cold to spells, flat added lightning to spells, and flat added fire to spells. That's limited to 1 per spell. However, the attack has no such limit. So that, in addition to the fact that we just got higher tiers of elemental brackets to compensate for like attacks like that not being used a lot, is bonkers for this build, because you can now get, and in theory, if you're mostly scaling the spell, you could then get tier 1 flat added lightning, tier 1 flat added cold, and tier 1 flat added lightning to spells, or, you know, tier 1 flat added fire if you don't really care, or if your conversion, you know, it's so much damage with that triple flat. And then if you're using something with a very high damage effectiveness, you're just getting so much out, like, because your spell cast speed or whatever is set, right? You have to get cooldown recovery, and then you just want to have attack speed. But yeah, it sounds insanely strong. I'm really looking forward to trying it. And it is always sort of risky to league start with something that you aren't sure if it's going to work. But the thing about this, with the way it's scaled and you're still scaling spells, there's a couple of reasons why it's more forgivable in this case, similar to how I thought about Winter Orb in the league when our league started Winter Orb. I realized very quickly that Winter Orb and Blade Vortex had effectively the same skill tree. So worst case scenario, where if Winter Orb didn't work or wasn't good, I could instantly switch back to Blade Vortex, which I already knew was good. Same with this, is I'm pretty sure I could just have the same skill tree as, you know, any spell. I don't really need to scale an attack. I can just, you know, there's a lot of opportunities here. So hopefully I'll try to put out some beginner guides and starter guides for Spellslinger. It's obviously going to still be a little bit more risky than something that we know is like tested and true. But that's always the gamble. And then one skill balance, you can see here that Pyro Siphon and Kinetic Blast now deal a higher portion of base damage to lower levels. And that's to like make them easier to level with, because obviously attack skills are very hard to level with. We've also adjusted the damage on a couple of new unique ones that were below the damage curve of other unique items at their level. So I'm guessing like Twizel at least, and a couple other things. I'm not sure what else we get early adjustments. We can also see here that they've added a Wand Slinger notable, which is like a Crown of Ice. So that's pretty cool. Obviously only works with wands, but yeah, it just means that you can get at least 100% of your spell damage to Kinetic Blast or Frenzy and things like that if you want to scale the actual attack. It is going to be interesting to see how many people actually scale the attack itself and not just abuse Spellslinger. I can see there's going to be some heavy Spellslinger abuse. I think like a month and a half or 2 months from now, we're going to have people in Twitch chat going Resident Sleeper, just another Spellslinger build. But at least it looks really cool, so it's going to be a lot nicer to look at than people playing minions. But yeah, and they also say here at the end, we've improved Crown of Ice, the unique item, so it grants attack damage from spell damage at a higher ratio, and that's the only way to get it for, you know, like Blade Flurry or Cyclone if you want to scale spell damage there. But yeah, really cool. And as the final one for this news post, I want to go over the changes to Spectres and movement skills in Path of Exile Delirium. We'll start off with like Second Wind and the new movement skill changes, which is really, really cool. So they say that in the interest of giving more competitive choices, we've added a new support gem called Second Wind, and that was because they found that lots of people are just using Flame Dash, and that was obviously going to happen with the new like instant cast, and it's so nice. So they're adding something called Second Wind, which adds an additional cooldown count to skills that already have a cooldown. And the use for this is, for example, on Blink Arrow, you can now like Blink Arrow, and that's very nice. It's gonna be interesting to see if people use much other things. I usually do Flame Dash until I get a shield and then start using Shield Charge with Flame Dash. And you know, Smoke Mine is generally always the best thing. It's just, it's barely better, and it fucks your hands. And you know, I'm old now, I'm 31, so I just, yeah, no, I don't really want to use Smoke Mine or skills like that I have to spam keys that much. I'd rather avoid it. So Shield Charge and holding down spacebar is nice for me. And yeah, like they say here, the intention of its design is to improve travel skills and encourage investment into them, and has interesting uses on skills like Frostbomb. So pretty cool. Really, really looking forward to see like how it's going to be used. And sadly it doesn't work on Frost Blink. I was hoping it would, because Frost Blink is a really, really strong movement skill, because it does have like a pretty big AoE and it kills monsters pretty well, and that's like cold snapping yourself sort of. So I really like Frost Blink, and I wish there was a better way to use that for longer, at least at like level 40 or something. But yeah. And there's some minor changes to movement skills here. It's like Flame Dash has had increased cooldown recovery speed lowered slightly, just to nerf it slightly. And then obviously it does get a benefit from Second Wind. So I can see people doing Flame Dash, Second Wind, and Arcane Surge for leveling. Lightning Warp was buffed a lot, since it's had its cast time lowered and has a higher value of reduced skill effect duration than before. That means that it's going to like detonate or teleport you faster. And then it's generally really strong with an investment. The problem is that it requires a 3 or 4 link to be usable normally. And Blink Arrow wasn't changed except that it got second wind. Another change, the last one that we're going to talk about today, which is very important and insane, has me worried, is the changes to Spectres. We've added 350 new monster types to the pool of Spectres. These are, you know, loads of things like the Conqueror mobs, like the Baran monsters. You have the Abyss monsters, probably things from, and things from Del, Legion, and things like that. So there's at least 5 of those that are going to be broken OP. So even if Spectres have been nerfed a lot, there's probably going to be one that you see Uber Elite or Karvarusku is going to be running around one-shotting Uber Elder, Aziri, and Shaper at the same time because he's somehow found a way to cast a time portal and put them in the same room. But, you know, I'm expecting some crazy stuff from the new Spectres regardless of nerfs. I mean, I'm not a big fan of like zombie Spectres. I really like Anime Weapon as a summoner build. That's my favorite way to build them. I feel like it's just not the archetype I really love, I guess. So I was hoping they would be nerfed into the ground for at least a league or two, and then we could focus on spell slinging. But we're gonna see. I don't want to play summoner this league, with the exception of Anime Weapon. It's the best thing ever. I love it. But yeah. And yeah, it is going to be interesting and fun to see what happens with all the new Spectre types and all the new builds that come out of it. And it is honestly very cool, aside from my hatred from summoner builds, I guess. But I am actually looking forward to it because there's so many cool monsters. And regardless of what you feel about Spectres and summoners, at least Spectre is a really, really cool thing in a game that we can use any monster type now, basically, to be a monster. So I am actually looking forward to it, even if I'm kind of hoping it's getting nerfed still a lot. So that was the main changes I wanted to go over. We're going to try to do another news post when there's more stuff to talk about. And if you have any questions or any comments, drop by my Twitch channel. And thanks for watching. Try to die less than I do.